Alright, so going into this video, I need to be completely transparent with you guys. I have no idea how this video is going to perform. I don't know if you guys are going to mess with it or if you're not, so I'm kind of taking a bit of a gamble on this one. But I do hope you guys go on to enjoy it because it's been forever since I had this idea come to my mind, and I'm so glad that I get to do it now. At first, I was thinking of dropping a video titled "What if Deku was Shino's reincarnation?" or "What if Deku had a bug jutsu?" But the more that I thought about that and I thought about using Shino as, you know, the driving force to get you guys to click on it, I was like, yeah, that's probably not gonna work. And suddenly Emmet, my thumbnail maker by the way, comes out and makes this absolute banger of a thumbnail. Like genuinely, this is probably one of the best thumbnails he's made in a while. And now I'm over here just feeling like I have no excuse to make this video. So yeah, with that said, now you're here. Sorry for the bit of a yap session, considering it's not technically an intro, but it is kind of, I guess you could say. So let me stop yapping and just get into the story. Oh, actually, one last little thing before I get into it. If some of you guys are wondering why I'm not doing like edited intros anymore, it's just because I've been working from my bed because I'm still healing from the surgery, and truth be told, sitting down takes a lot out of me. So I've been having to sit down on like my mattress, and it's just so much more comfortable, and it allows me to get these videos out to you guys and pump them out, since, you know, I'm kind of relying on YouTube as a full-time job for now. But I just realized I've been yapping for 1 minute and 30 seconds, so a million apologies, and let's begin. Alright, so to get into the story, I'm thinking where everything has to start for this one is the day that Bakugo would essentially be walking with his friends, and he'd be blasting explosions walking across a little bridge. This is when Bakugo would fall inside, and Deku at this moment would reach his hand out going, "Kachan, are you okay?" This is when suddenly butterflies that would have been flying around the area would essentially hear like Deku's thoughts, and they would go flying toward Bakugo, flying around him with Izuku desiring to help his friend out. However, it's in this moment that him seeing Izuku sticking his hand out to him would piss Bakugo off. And instead of reacting with gratitude or, you know, something akin to that, Bakugo would quite literally just smack Deku's hand out of his face, telling him, "I don't need your help, you quirkless Deku." This is when suddenly Izuku, feeling bad, would then notice that these butterflies would start going all around him. And Izuku seeing them just fly around him would be like, "Whoa, like, you guys, are you following me?" And this is when suddenly one of the butterflies would fly up and down as to signal yes. Izuku, noticing this, would go, "Wait, I think I got my quirk." And everybody would look at Izuku with Bakugo being like, "Huh? What quirk could you have gotten? I don't see anything different." This is when suddenly Izuku would say, "Can you understand me?" As the butterflies would essentially fly up and down as to signal yes. Izuku would say, "All right," when suddenly Izuku would notice an ant nearby, and seeing this, Izuku would be like, "Wait, I wonder if," as he looking towards it would then go, "Hey, can you hear me?" The bug would stop and look up, as Izuku would say, "Can you hear me? Walk around in a circle if you can." The bug would start doing exactly that, not actually hearing Izuku's voice as he was thinking, but hearing his thoughts, considering that his voice and thoughts matched up in this moment. And so, with that being the case, Deku would watch the ant go in circles, with Bakugo being like, "So what? Big deal, he can control little insects. What? Is he going to control an army of spiders or something like that?" And Izuku, looking at him, would go, "Well, maybe," as Bakugo would say, "That's pathetic. You can't go on to be a hero with a quirk like that. You might as well just go on to be a sidekick or something. That's the best you can do. Or maybe a police officer." As Izuku, hearing that, would look down and start to feel bad. This is when suddenly Bakugo's little buddies would be like, "Damn, like that's a little harsh," because they thought that it was cool, but now they know that Bakugo's going to be a jerk to them unless they are one to him. So they kind of start joining the pack, and everyone just kind of starts making fun of Deku. Long story short though, after this would take place, he would go to the quirk doctor where he has confirmation. Yup, his quirk is called Insect Whisperer. Or no, actually, I think I'd prefer the name Hive Mind, just because it just kind of gives off that My Hero Academia feeling of like of Izuku Midoriya, Quirk, hive mind. You get what I'm saying? Like one of those like cards like in the actual anime. So yeah, we're gonna go with the Quirk name hive mind. And after Izuku learns of these abilities, his interest in bugs and looking them up and finding out all the cool things that they do and how they function and all that just like goes through the roof. Because even though everybody's pretty much telling Izuku that with a quirk like that, there's no way he can be a hero. Even Inko would be saddened by the quirk that he ended up getting because she felt bad. She was like, oh, I know how much you wanted to be a hero, Izuku, but there's still other options. But Izuku just smiled, looked at her and goes, no, I'm gonna be a hero. Trust me. As you know, he would have like a little butterfly like on his finger, and he would look at it and just be like, do you think I can be a hero? The butterfly would just look at Izuku and like kind of like nod as Izuku would smile going, yeah, don't worry about me, Mom. I'll become a hero. Flash forward though, a bunch of time would pass, and after this would all be said and done, Izuku would now find himself in a point in life where his control over his quirk is just insane. I mean, we're genuinely talking about Izuku Midoriya here, the kid who is obsessive when it comes to quirks and pro heroes. So just imagine how much more obsessive and how much he would test the boundaries of a quirk like his, one that isn't exactly too obvious to the naked eye. He's more than able to go to little insect farms, or like, you guys ever gone to like those butterfly farms where like there's like a bunch of them? Izuku is not beyond going there and be like, hey guys, can you hear me? And you know, like, or not like, can you hear me, like saying it out loud? Because Izuku has discovered that it's actually not his voice that commands the insects, but his mind. So Izuku has developed a way of using his quirk to the normal people of essentially using voice commands whenever he whenever he speaks to his insects. However, that's just a bit of like a misdirection, because if Izuku truly wanted to and someone like thought, oh, he's gonna shoot ants at me because he's like, ants attack, he could actually in turn be thinking like a different bug crawl up his body and inject him with poison. You get what I'm saying? So it'll throw villains off completely for a loop. And I'm just thinking that that's going to be making Izuku crazy powerful, because if this is like your first time encountering the dude, this is genuinely going to be making Izuku a terrifying opponent. Because even if we only take into account the My Hero Academia versus showings of a quirk like this in the My Hero Academia Vigilante character with like the red hair, I don't know if you guys have seen that series, but it's pretty good. I own the whole manga, and I gotta say, it is genuinely incredible. I read through that entire series in like 2 days, and that was with breaks because I limited myself to reading only like 3-4 volumes at a time out of the 15 that there were. But that's besides the point. Getting to that, the quirk itself, even in that series, was shown to be very potent, with the capability of controlling insects and injecting a bunch of people with these different toxins, which Izuku is most definitely going to be having up his sleeve. One thing, however, that some of you guys might be like, yo, it'd be so cool if he could have like exploding bugs. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, Izuku is not gonna be taking things that far, because in his eyes, he doesn't think that it's very nice to be doing that to his friends that are already helping him out with all of these things. And yeah, I do mean friends, because this version of Izuku is going to be looking at bugs not as like insects or like as beneath him, but like genuinely as his pals. Like, the dude has a lot of respect and admiration for the bugs that are like serving him, and like he just isn't gonna be like blowing them up or something like that. Instead, Izuku's actually gonna be arming them with poisons and all this other crazy stuff that he's gonna be able to attack his enemies with this, which is gonna be pretty insane. And I'm thinking that somewhere down the line, I'm gonna be giving Izuku like a bug with like this drug that essentially allows people to be more perceptive to what you say. So like Shinso from Class 1A, when the guy will pretty much mind control you, it's gonna be like that, but to a lesser degree and only done because of a drug. He's kind of gonna like sedate people, and in turn, they're gonna be more prone to following his orders, if you get what I'm putting down. But that's besides the point. I haven't even gone to the UA entrance exam, so let's go ahead and get into what the day of the Sludge villain incident is, and then make our way there. So beginning with that day, Izuku would walk into class, and once there, Izuku would be wearing his like big old jacket that he's always seeming to wear. Bakugo would always be confused why he always has it on, because it's not like he just has it on during the winter. The dude has it on in blatant summers when it's like 90 degrees outside. It's kind of infuriating watching this dude roll up in this big old jacket. during times when he's walking in the classroom and he's sweating bullets, but Deku over here looks cool as a cucumber. It's insane. So yeah, Izuku's sitting there in his class and Bakugo is giving him his usual dirty look, as the teacher would then finally go on to tell them that they're going to be taking career aptitude tests, before revealing that, no, he knows they all want to become heroes. After this, the teacher would then go on to explain that there's 2 students that want to go to a prestigious school, and he would go on to tell Bakugo and the rest of the class that those 2 are Katsuki and Midoriya, which would lead the entirety of the class to start making fun of him, and people saying, "What, you're gonna send butterflies after people to attack them? Get real, Midoriya, there's no way you're making it to the national." Bakugo would start laughing so hard, saying that with a quirk like that, he'd be pushing it if he thinks he could even last 10 seconds with those monsters at that school. To which the rest of the students would go on to agree with Bakugo, and because he was laughing so hard, he wouldn't even try to attack Izuku. But Deku, not caring about any of that, would simply have a little conversation in his mind with his little bugs that are inside of his jacket, because Izuku is now I don't want to make Izuku nasty in the sense that he's covered in bugs like the Aburame clan is, and there's literal hives living inside of him. That's not going to happen. However, Izuku does have a significant amount of bugs underneath this jacket that he's wearing at all times. So with that said, eventually class would end, and with that coming to a close, Izuku packing his stuff up and getting ready to leave would suddenly be stopped by Bakugo, who would essentially put his hand on his shoulder and say, "Hey, don't you even think about going to the nationals, okay?" Blowing his shoulder up slightly and causing a bit of a burn mark to appear. Izuku, looking at Bakugo, would then think to himself that, yeah, that was going too far. That was the first time in years that Bakugo had pushed his luck that far, and Izuku, to put it lightly, was not going to be letting that slide. Izuku in this moment would have a bug crawl on Bakugo's shoulder as it would bite down on him, giving him a big old little swollen spot that would get super itchy immediately. Izuku in this moment, then looking to Bakugo, would kind of tell him that he'll think about that, as Bakugo would look at him, angry, thinking that it must have been Izuku, as he would then flash an explosion in his hand saying, "You damn nerd, you think I don't know that your stupid little insect quirk was responsible for that? Now I gotta send you off to hell," as he would crank up an explosion. However, before he would throw it at Izuku, he would find himself paralyzed, with the effects having affected him even more than he had thought. And Izuku in this moment, turning back to Bakugo, would say, "Ciao," as he would leave. This is when Bakugo would watch Izuku jump out of the window, as hundreds of little butterflies underneath his feet would create a purple cloud that would take him to the ground, as Izuku would hop off, thanking them all. All of them would shoot right back into Izuku's jacket, with the 2 little lackeys just being like, "Whoa, I didn't know his quirk could do that." As we would then see Bakugo being like, "Help me move, you damn bastards," as the 2 lackeys would say, "Right, Bakugo." They would take him to the nurse's office, and here we're going to be taking a little bit of a break, just because I do want to let you guys know that at the moment of recording this video, there is a storm going on and my family's home, so a million apologies if you guys end up hearing either the storm or some background noises during this video. Really, I'll do my best to edit it out, but no promises. Anyways, to continue the story, as Izuku would be traveling throughout this little sewer section, this is when suddenly Izuku's bugs would alert him that something is getting closer. And Izuku, turning around to see what it was, he would see a green sludgy type substance getting closer and closer. As Izuku would hear a voice going, "Kid, I'm glad I found you. You're gonna be a real hero to me. I didn't know that freak was in town." As it would try to envelop Izuku in its substance. However, before it could even do that, Izuku would move backwards 10 feet, with little Ant having been carrying him to make it look as though he didn't take a single step. The Sludge villain would go, "Huh? How'd you get over there, kid? I need your body, now come here," as it would extend its arm out, trying to grab at Izuku. However, this is when suddenly a bunch of butterflies appear behind Izuku, creating these massive looking butterfly wings that would proceed to lead him to flying in the air, as Izuku would look down and tell the sludge monster that if he needs a body, he's not going to be using this one, saying that it's already taken. As the sludge villain would say, "You damn kid, you don't understand. If you don't get..." Suddenly, dun, 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 dun. Oh wait, why did I do that? All Might comes in. That's the point. All Might comes in and he's all like, Texas smash with the wind pressure with the wind pressure absolutely obliterating the Sludge villain. All the while Izuku watched from above and flew down instantly, going, let me down. This is when the butterflies would do so, and Izuku would say, All Might, as all the butterflies instantly fly into Izuku's jacket, and All Might would be like, kid, you do realize all those butterflies are, as Izuku's like, that's not important. All Might, you've been my favorite hero for so long, and I can't believe I even get to meet you right now. Can I please have your autograph? All Might looking towards Izuku would say, yeah, sure, kid. As Izuku taking a pen out would pretty much let him write down in his notebook, to which Izuku would be like, thank you so much. I will treasure this for every generation to come. As All Might would say, sure, kid, and leave the area. And that would be pretty much all we get from All Might. Considering that due to Izuku having a quirk, there's no need for him to ask, can I become a hero? And we don't end up getting the Sludge villain incident part 2, meaning no one for all, sadly. But I do have a what if coming out very, very soon, which Izuku is going to be having a quirk almost to the level of One for All. Star and Stripes New Order. So be on the lookout for that, because I promise, like literally just keep refreshing on my channel for the next few days, because it will be coming soon. And it's a collab with my boy Puffin's Verse. So go check that boy out, because he gets down with the videos. But anyways, that aside, continuing on with the story, over the course of the 10-month of training, Izuku would just polish up some extra skills, get some weight up, bulk up in the gym, and pretty much just get ready and study for his exam. Considering that in this timeline, Izuku doesn't have to like push his body to the absolute max, since, you know, he's starting from scratch. And in this timeline, Izuku feels more than ready. Having had more than 10 years to train on his quirk, Izuku's excited to take the entrance exam, ready to show the world what a seemingly weak quirk can do. Or more specifically, what Bakugo's claim to be weak, because his quirk, and even he knows, is not weak at all. And so, when the day of the test would come, Izuku would find himself in the testing area waiting for the gates to open after taking the practical exam and passing it no problems, which, I mean, he could have passed anyways, considering he has bugs that could have just scouted the area and helped the guy cheat, but he wasn't going to be doing that because Izuku believes in having integrity. So, with that said, Izuku's finding himself outside, and this is when suddenly he would hear Present Mic go, "Go, go, go, there are no countdowns in a real battle, get going!" As Izuku hearing this would lunge into the air before like these butterfly wings would appear, and people would be like, whoa, he has a quirk that could give him wings! They'd be thinking it's pretty cool, as the lot of them would all rush towards the nearest robot. However, Izuku landing in front of it would then say, it's go time guys, and suddenly a bunch of bugs would surround the robot and start to like chew down on it. And due to the fact that Izuku still isn't in the headspace to like comfortably use his bugs as intended, because he's a bit of a softy at heart, Izuku would only rack up a grand total of like 17 robot points altogether, because even though Izuku had an easy time locating the robots and getting to them before anybody else, Izuku's time that it took him to actually dismantle the robots was, well, a bit longer to say the least. So with that being the case, this is when suddenly, as we're about into the last 2 minutes of the test, Izuku would hear the rumblings of the 0 pointer, and knowing that it's worth 0 points, Izuku ignores it, when suddenly he hears the cries of a young girl calling out for help or a hero, and Izuku's body unable to ignore this shout for help, Izuku would rush there as fast as possible, his butterflies working overtime and being 2 times their usual size, appearing and saving Uraraka before the 0 pointer's foot could fully crush her. Izuku getting her out of the way would then ask if she's okay, with her thanking him so much for getting her out of that situation, and Principal Nezu being astounded by Izuku's instincts to save people. This would luckily lead Izuku to getting what, like 50 points added on top of that, which means that Izuku would dang near have gotten the highest scores. Only second to Bakugo, because the dude ended up getting 77 points and Izuku only got 69, I believe it was, because I had said he had 19 points, so 19 plus 50, yeah, the maths. So yeah, with that being said, Izuku would pass, and this would lead to him pretty much awaiting his letter, which obviously comes and passes him. So the next scene that we would jump to would pretty much just be Izuku outside of the door, awaiting his new classmates and teacher. He would think, oh, I hope I have a good teacher, and he would walk in to see Bakugo. Izuku in this moment could practically feel himself cringing, knowing that that's the last person he wanted to run into, when suddenly a girl from behind would tap him saying, "Hey, you're the boy who saved me, right?" Izuku, was it? Izuku would turn around to see Araka, as he would say, "Yeah, it was me. Hey, I didn't think you'd be part of my class." With her going on to say, "Yeah, I guess I don't give off that vibe, especially since I was a damsel in distress, but thanks anyways." Izuku would say, "No, that's not what I meant. I just didn't mean I'd be lucky enough to be placed in the same class as you." Araka would say, "Oh, you're just doing too much." As Aizawa would be like, "All right, shut up and put these on." Then we would cut to everybody, taking the practical exam, as everybody's just outside and they're waiting what's gonna happen. Bakugo would have the ball tossed to him and, we would get the ball rolling, pretty much how everything usually happens. The test would be taken, and after all the results would come in, Izuku would come in with the grand score of I don't know, but he's placed pretty high up there in terms of the ranking. He'd probably be 5th, 6th place in terms of how well he performed for the test. So obviously the guy, not Kai, wouldn't be expelled in this timeline, which means that the unlucky person would probably be either Invisible Girl or Mineta. But let's go with Invisible Girl, and since she has a quirk that has potential, Aizawa would say that it was just, a facade, and he wasn't truly going to be expelling anybody. This is when we would pretty much just get everybody relieved at that, and them all going home just being like, "Dang, that first day of UA was crazy, wasn't it?" With people asking Izuku what exactly his quirk is, saying if he has the ability to control insects or something. Izuku would say that that's exactly it, and this is when suddenly Kota would walk over towards Izuku and say, "I have the same quirk too, As Izuku would say, "What? You can what now?" He's speaking all quiet. Izuku's like, "What'd you say?" As Kota would go on to say, "I can talk to animals too." Izuku would go on to say, "Oh, I don't talk to animals, just insects." As Kota would look at him and go, "Oh, that's scary." He'd get his distance from Izuku as he would go on and tell him that, well, it was nice to meet him. This is when we would jump cut to the very next day at UA, with the 2v2 battle trial being announced by All Might and everybody getting changed into their hero costumes. And since I don't feel like coming up with some cool detailed version of his costume, let's say that he's just going to be having a really fat coat that's going to be having the added bonus of having heat resistance as well as conducting electricity, or it's pretty much going to repel lightning, which is very bad for his bugs, and it also keeps water out and stuff like that. Oh, and it has crazy durability on top of all that. So yeah, Izuku just looks like he's wearing this baggy trench coat. And he's also going to be having those cool looking glasses from the thumbnail, just pretty much for aesthetics, with the white hair that you guys see in the thumbnail, just because, I don't know, his quirk is a mutation type, so it changes the way that he actually physically looks, which I think is a pretty good excuse to give Deku a different look for this timeline. So yeah, with that said, let's get into who he actually fights, and let me actually use a generator for this because I'm kind of tired of the old and, way too used up Bakugo and Ida thing, so I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back, and I ended up getting my results, which are Kaminari and Ojiro, or if you don't know, basically Tail Guy. Oh wait, I forgot to get Izuku's teammate, so BRB. Alright, so his teammate's gonna be Tokiyami, which is a pretty interesting combo. But ladies and gentlemen, that's where I'm gonna be cutting the video off for today, just because it's been a while since I've dropped a part in my channel, and if I keep dropping movie after movie after movie, I'm gonna spoil you guys way too much. So if you guys are gonna be wanting to see more to this, then absolutely crush the like button, because I'm hoping that this video can somehow break 1,000 likes. Once you guys do that, I promise to drop another 20-minute part in 24 hours. That said, good luck, and here's a word from a friend.
Hey, you made it to the end of the video! Like it or die!
That wasn't the line, Kachan!
Whatever!